Last year, the Skopinsky maniac Viktor Mokhov was released. For almost 4 years, he kept 2 girls in an underground bunker, Ekaterina Martinova and Elena Samakina. Lena, who was 17 years old at the time of the abduction, gave birth to 2 boys. How did the fate of the sons of the Ryazan maniac turn out? Viktor Mokhov lived in the town of Skopin, Ryazan region. The man worked as a locksmith at the factory and had a reputation as a good employee. He was the winner of professional competitions, regularly received certificates of honor. Colleagues considered him a calm and even sluggish person. For his character, he received the nickname Seal. Mokhov's relationships with women did not work out. He got married, but divorced after 3 months, returned to live with his mother. Neighbors remember him as a quiet and economic man who does everything. I was busy in my garden for a while. That's just the Skopinsky maniac didn't plant potatoes at all. He was digging an underground bunker under the garage for future captives. In September 2000, Viktor Mokhov abducted 2 girls, 14-year-old Ekaterina Martinova and 17-year-old Elena Samakina. In a tiny room, without windows with a bucket instead of a toilet, the girls spent almost 4 years being subjected to constant violence.
Hey, I'm not going to beat around the bush. You have to subscribe to the channel and like it so you don't miss new videos.
During this time Lena gave birth to 2 children. Katya managed to avoid this fate. From constant stress and malnutrition, a 14-year-old girl did not begin menstruation. In the spring of 2004, the Skopinsky maniac Mokhov decided that his victims were finally broken and relaxed. He took Katya with him under the guise of a niece to a lodger, and the girl managed to leave a note: "Victor is not my uncle. He's been keeping us in the basement since September 2000. He can kill us and you. Take the note to the police." Thanks to her, the captives were released in May, and Mokhov was sentenced to 17 years in a penal colony. Viktor Mokhov was released in March 2021 and immediately found himself in the spotlight. Komsomolskaya Pravda in its Telegram channel reported that the Skopinsky maniac was paid 3 million rubles for participating in a talk show on one of the central channels. The girls were abducted in September 2000, and in the spring, the next year Lena realized that she was pregnant. The prisoners begged Viktor Mokhov to let them go. They said that the young mother needed the help of a doctor, but the man was adamant. Samakina would give birth in a bunker. His attitude towards the captives did not change. The food remained scarce, and he continued to call Lena to his dressing room, hung with obscene pictures, where Mokhov was engaged with the girls' sex. Somehow Samakina tried to refuse another session because of poor health. Then Mokhov sprayed a gas canister in the girls' room and left, leaving them to suffocate. He brought Katya a manual on obstetrics and gynecology and said, "Study while you have time, everything is described in detail here, you will soon be giving birth." The girl leafed through the book, but almost nothing. "I understood, except for one thing: medicines and doctors are needed, and not cotton wool and hydrogen peroxide, the only medicines that Mokhov gave them." Lena Samakina gave birth to her first son in November 2001. Katya couldn't even look at what was happening. She turned around only then, when a friend asked to cut the umbilical cord. Having done this, the girl wiped the baby from the blood and wrapped the baby in a torn piece of sheet. The cradle was made from an old suitcase. 2 months later, the Skopinsky maniac took the boy, whom Lena called Vladislav. He spiked. He put sleeping pills in the water for the captives and took the baby away. Lena Samakina gave birth to her second son, Oleg, in the summer of 2003. She gave it herself 4 months later. It was clear that the child was weak. He could not survive in the bunker. Besides, Lena's milk was gone. The girls tried to hide notes in diapers asking for help, but Mokhov swaddled the child and found them. At the time of her release, Lena Samakina was 8 months pregnant. Soon she had a miscarriage. Viktor Mokhov's daughter did not survive. Mokhov threw newborn children into the entrances, apartment buildings. Journalists managed to talk to a woman who found the younger boy in the stairwell under her door. "Evening, I hear a baby crying. I went to the kitchen, I thought she was crying at the neighbors. This went on for an hour. I opened the first front door. I understand that the crying has become louder. And I can't open the second door, because the child was lying under the door. There was not a diaper, but a mattress so black, from a stroller, a dirty pillowcase and a note: 'My name is Olzhek, 4 months old.' That's all, nothing else," Nina Nikolaevna, who discovered the child, said. According to the woman, the boy was very tiny, as if he had just been born. Neighbors brought milk, which they fed the baby, then called the police and an ambulance. Nina even had the idea of leaving the child, but she quickly discarded it. Their children were still young. The baby, Nina says, was first taken to the Skopin maternity hospital, and then taken to Ryazan. Almost nothing is known about what happened to the second boy. Residents of Skopin say that he was adopted in the city and named Anatoly. Last name, the locals refuse to name them. They don't want to spoil the life of an already grown-up guy and his family. Oleg, according to his neighbor Nina Nikolaevna, was taken away by foreigners, and now he lives abroad. Viktor Mokhov, after his release, said that he would very much like to see his sons, and even hinted that he took care of them as best he could. I specifically wanted them to survive, not to die. I took them specially to the entrance and left them there. I would love to leave, but I couldn't do it. There was no other option. But Katya Martinova does not want to see children from a maniac. I have nothing to talk about with them. If they were asked to tell them something, of course, I would have met you halfway. But I would not be able to be friends and maintain friendly relations, she says in an interview with Medusa. Martinova does not want the boys to know the story of their birth, and it is easy to understand, who is pleased to discover that their father committed such a monstrous crime. Of course, many maniacs and murderers had children, but almost everyone changed their surnames and names and moved to unknown directions so that their family ties would not pursue them. Mikhail Popkov killed the daughter of the Angara maniac, Popkov, from the early 90s to the 2010s. The criminal was chased for 20 years and only by 2012 the Angara maniac could be calculated. Popkov heard the verdict in January 2015. Wife Elena and daughter Ekaterina, when their relative was arrested, refused to believe in Mikhail's guilt. His wife assured him that he was loving and caring. The heiress of the cleaner talked about her parent with a smile. I've always considered myself a daddy's daughter. We are kindred spirits. We always had common hobbies. We walked a lot, talked, collected cars. Said at that time the 27-year-old daughter of a maniac. Popkov was recognized as a murderer. They were sent to the colony Black Dolphin. According to sources close to the family, after the verdict, Katya, who was then working as a teacher, was forced to resign. She had to move to another city with her mother. The daughter of the Angara maniac got married, changed her last name and did not remember about to the father, only to the spouse the girl told the truth. On July 22, 2017, Ekaterina gave birth to a son. In an interview after the birth of his grandson, Popkov boasted of the addition. He said that he had not seen the child, but he knew all the details: height, weight, time. Now, I guess so. She has more worries, all the attention to the child. Even if I have not received letters from her for a long time, I do not allow myself to reproach her. She is not up to me now, the criminal assured. It is unknown whether Mikhail will see his grandson. Popkov's daughter leads a closed lifestyle. The daughter of the killer with a happy face, American, was detained on March 30, 1995, when his eldest daughter Melissa was 15 years old. Melissa has two younger brothers, but they avoid publicity. The girl recalled that she noticed her father's tendency to violence. The man liked to torture animals, which he did right in front of his daughter. Melissa Moore described this episode and other memories of her father in the book Destroying Silence, released in 2009. The daughter of a maniac has become not only a writer, but also a journalist specializing in criminal news. And also a public figure. Melissa communicates with the heirs of other criminals, organized a hotline, conducts trainings for those faced with such a disaster. The girl was not afraid to meet with relatives, victims of her father, and ask them for forgiveness to prove that she is not like Kit. A year ago, Moore returned to the sore subject again in The Dr. Oz Show. In the studio, she underwent a brain scan and heard a medical report. The passion for cruelty was not genetically transmitted. Daughter and son Chikatilo the maniac left two children, a son and a daughter. Ludmila disowned communication with the media, as well as from her father, which she did without knowing the truth about him yet. The woman got married early and gave birth to her first child. One day Ludmila left her son with her grandparents. And soon I found out that Andrei Chikatilo began to molest the child at night. After the incident, Ludmila cut ties with her family. The woman saw her mother and brother only in 1990, after they moved to Kharkiv. According to some reports, she is in a second marriage, changed her surname again and gave birth to a daughter. Chikatilo's son is a much more famous person. Not only that, Yuri defended his father, thanking him for his excellent health and genes, and telling about the thirst for revenge to all those who fabricated his father's case and broke their destinies in his opinion. The heir turned out to be a criminal himself. He was imprisoned for abuse, forgery of documents, kidnapping and attempted murder. Engaged in extortion, pressured victims, showing birth certificate. He is supposedly the son of a bloody murderer. He spent about 12 years behind bars, where he also sought authority due to his origin. Married for the second time, has 2 children, one named after his grandfather, Andrew. Among the desires of a man is to emigrate to America, sell his story to a TV channel or newspaper and start life anew.